Okay, I'm going to start off by saying that I typically don't have this much fun with drones. The way this is actually being put together, it's too simple for anybody not to be able to enjoy using this type of technology in a very easy way. You can literally take it out of the box, charge the battery, put it in there, and the HOVERAir X1 is just simple and it's very easy to go. You can select literally on the top the different modes that are preset in there right out of the box, and you can literally use it without even pairing it to your smartphone. So, without further ado, this is TK and this is the HOVERAir X1. Literally the most fun small drone that you can get and of course take with you in almost any situation. It's literally that small. Let's check it out. Like and subscribe and make sure you hit that bell icon so you're always notified to whenever we have new videos on the channel. I do want to say thank you very much to Hover for sending me the actual package here. We got the actual HOVERAir X1 and we also got the external charger and an additional battery. So we have one battery that comes with the actual unit itself, an additional one, and of course the best way to charge them, because this is going to be the best way for you to enjoy playing with this outside. We have roughly about a battery life of 11 minutes, but depending on the modes that you're using and how windy it is, that may actually go down a little bit, and depending again how hard the actual unit has to fly, because it has a lot, even though this kind of looks very simple, it has a lot of smart tech built into it. In the box itself, we obviously have the instruction manual, we have the actual drone itself, again has one battery already on it. There's a nice little carrying case, very soft material, charging cable, and of course just the box itself. The additional box here is again for the charger that you're able to use. This again is purely a charger, so you put in two batteries, one that you're able to pick up separately, that's going to be the one there, and of course the one that comes with the unit itself. And they do provide this directly in the box, a few little instructions to give you an example of how to use it. You obviously need to open it up, push the power button, and of course allow it to actually hover and lift off. One thing to keep in mind is whenever you're using it, the camera that we have, the front, obviously the main camera, needs to be facing you, and that's what you need to look for, that little green option that allows you to know that the actual unit itself can see you. Once that's on, it'll take off and it'll perform whichever mode that you have it in there. And once it's done, all you have to do is put your hand right under it at about 20 centimeters away, and it actually sees your hand and it will directly dock directly on your hand. And of course, you could just close up the doors. One thing to keep in mind is obviously they recommend you not to fly it next to buildings or any environments where it could potentially either impact something or even be intrusive. But last but not least is make sure that there's enough light. It has to have enough light. This is not really meant to be used in low lit environment or very a lot of optics where there's a lot of obstacles. So an open area, well lit, it's definitely going to work the best. And as far as what we talked about the charger itself, it's pretty straightforward. The pin connectors are on the bottom. You can actually just directly pin it in. You need to make sure that the little teeth that we have on the top kind of fit in under it. Once you have that in, just push that down on the bottom and it's pretty much ready to go. Removing it from the actual HOVERAir X1, it's pretty much the same. Push it out, take it out, and then you're pretty much set. And again, you could just basically take it in, do the exact same experience here, push it down, set it up. And at that point, all you have to do is connect the USB-C connector on the bottom here, and you're able to charge up both batteries. And of course, check the status on the batteries when you're charging them. You'll notice this one is full, and this one's about halfway since I've been using it in the backyard. When you're ready to use it, all you have to do is do the exact same situation, put it back in there. If the teeth are not under here directly, it will not close. And then at that point, once you put it in, it is very much safe, and it is actually very much secure. We have a power button that's positioned on the top. That's what we talked about. So opening it up is very much just, again, like a book almost. Push the power button, push and hold, and give it a second. It's going to light up. And then once you have that configured done correctly, you'll notice as the green light turns on and the camera in the front starts facing you. Once you have that done, it just goes back to the last mode that you used.
Current mode, follow.
And that was the one that my son was using actually playing in the backyard. So we have the ability of jumping between follow. There's a few options that are preset. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 presets. And then there's the custom mode that you're able to customize through the app. So if you don't do anything other than just turning it on and use it, you know exactly how to use it. You can change it to this one.
Orbit.
Orbit side.
Bird eye.
Bird eye.
Custom.
That's the custom option.
Hover.
That's just a hover where it just stands in the center and you could basically walk around it and it'll keep an eye on you.
Zoom out.
And then zoom out is definitely one of my favorite ones because it actually zooms away from you and takes an aerial shot, video obviously, of you, and it kind of zooms back down. So you get that nice little, I would say basically cinematic experience. And last but not least is, of course,
follow.
Follow works exactly as you'd expect. The only thing I want to say with this is that this actually does follow you. So if you do actually walk towards it, it doesn't actually go back. That's a different mode that we're going to check out in the app. They have a very nice and very simple application to be able to use it. First and foremost, when you log in here, there's a lot of examples of other people using it. But if you go into the center section here, into the same where it says the word hover, you'll notice a couple of things. A, there is the album. The album gives you access directly into what recorded content's already been recorded on the unit itself. We have 32 gigabytes worth of storage built in here. There is no expandable storage. That's something to keep in mind. But once you connect there, you're able to actually download all of that content. You'll see all these little videos in there in the back. I was actually waiting with my son outside. He was actually playing around, running around, and letting it actually come through. Once you do that, you can select the images and the videos you want, and you'll be able to download them directly onto your device and enjoy them from there. Now, I used this in a video that I was recording, a video for an e-bike that I've reviewed recently on the channel. And that was really one of the nice things about this. Follow is a super nice functional option to be able to do it. And then again, when we need to, we just select all the different content that we want. And at that point, just hit the little download on the bottom left. And it uses the Wi-Fi connection that it is connected to right now. You'll notice that I'm no longer connected to Wi-Fi at home. It's because it's connected directly into the unit. And as you can see, it downloads it very quickly. Once it downloads it, it removes it from the unit. That's one thing to keep in mind. It does not leave it in here. It just moves it into the library directly on our device. So you'll notice here under downloaded, this is just basically expanding with more content into it. You'll notice the videos are there. But once it's done, now you have 32 gigabytes to be able to play with on the actual drone itself. The other thing we're able to do, of course, is if we click on the actual hover drone itself, is configure the different options. Now, these are the preset, well, I'll probably say that these are the presets that are built in. We talked about hover, zoom out, follow, orbit, and bird's eye. The camera that we have in here gives us the ability of shooting in basically 3 different modes. There's 2.7K at 30 frames per second. There's 1080p 60 frames per second for those action shots. And then there's 1080p HDR at 30 frames per second. And that's going to be for, let's say, in an experience where there's like a well-lit experience, there's a lot of green, a lot of beautiful colors behind you, you're going to be using that mode and it's going to definitely be nice. And you can customize it here in all of the ones. So let's say we go into hover. An example would be here. I want to keep the video in there. Duration is continue. Target tracking on, so it'll automatically hover and keep basically a lock to our face, the subject, whomever's in front of it. If you want to be able to shoot by default, it shoots in horizontal videos to 16:9 aspect ratio. But let's say you want to shoot something for TikTok. Let's say you want to shoot something for Instagram or any of the other reel. Change it in here and go into the vertical mode, and it'll record the video for you in vertical mode, which makes it very nice. Again, I've been enjoying using 1080p 30 frames per second, but you can definitely go into the higher resolution at 2.7K, and that's going to be the best experience in there. Well lit, really nice, beautiful colors outdoors. That's going to give you the best experience. Low lit environment or areas where there's, let's say you're over water, where it's not easily recognized where the surface area is under it, it does get a little bit challenging because we're going to talk about the fact that this unit does not have any proximity sensors. It does not have any kind of obstacle avoidance system. And it is basically a 2-axis gimbal. So basically the camera just goes up and down. It does not go sideways. And on the bottom, the camera that we have is purely in there for it to actually recognize the surface it's around, but it's also to recognize our hand. Once it sees our hand, it actually starts and it lands on our hand, which makes it very nice. You're able to use sound recording, which is definitely very nice. And one thing I will say, the sound recording is actually built into the smartphone, meaning it's using your phone's audio microphone experience to be able to record audio for this. Come back to it, so you go forward. And again, same configuration. And that's the best experience to get it because you're not going to be worrying about listening to this, obviously the fans. And if let's say the camera is a little bit further away, you're still getting that first person audio experience in there. The ability of updating the firmware, storage management, of course, as we talked about, 32 gigabytes built in, voice setting, IMU calibration, hover language, and of course, units and length. I changed it into feet. Under the configuration here, when it goes into custom, it's going to basically be more dependent on what you're doing under this tab here. Now, this is in a way a skill tab. What that means, you're going to be able to see obviously how to use hover. That gives you an example what it does. What does it mean to use zoom out? What does it mean to use follow? What is it to use orbit? And of course, what is it to use the bird's eye? Now, bird's eye by far is one of the more unique ones, but once you complete these or kind of like test them out, you're able to unlock some of the additional features, let's say manual control. The ability of taking snapshots, the ability of using dolly mode or dolly track, and then of course side track, which gives you the ability of actually having it go sideways next to you so it more records you in that manner. And of course, last but not least is Smart Control, which is also one of the other options that you're able to do. You can click it, you can see the different options. I do need to do dolly track 2 more times for me to unlock this feature, so you'll notice right there. And that's one of the things I really like. It's like you can learn things, get better at it, and do more with it. Now, the biggest thing I'll probably say is that this entire thing weighs about basically 4.4 ounces. It is super light. And when it's sitting in the actual case itself, I'll let it go ahead and do that. It's actually pretty nice. Unfortunately, the case itself is pretty much just a pouch. It does not provide any protection, but it does keep it clean from any kind of dust or any particles getting in there. The cage itself is very nice. It makes it almost impossible for the blades to touch your hand. So even if it is landing on you, it's not going to touch you. It's enclosed in all directions and of course, everything that you're pretty much ready to go with right out of the box. Just turn it on, pick the mode, and you're ready to go there. It connects via Wi-Fi to our smartphone, and it can handle up to 17.7 miles an hour wind. So mild wind in an area, it's actually going to work really good. And some of the footage I'm going to share with you guys right now, like especially when I'm riding the bike, was actually pretty windy. When I was watching the actual hover itself, it was actually bouncing quite a bit. But you would never know it in the video that I showed you. It stabilizes. The electronic stabilization that they have in here is very, very nice, and it compensates. And I feel like this is where, if you're shooting at 1080p, you're going to get the best experience. But again, you can go all the way up to 2.7K. So what we're getting in here is a very much intelligent flight mode driven experience. It's really meant to be more of an auto type of an experience. If you're not using the custom option where you're able to control it manually, for the most part, there is really nothing to do with it. You set the mode, and let's say it's orbit. It'll do a spin around you, and it'll come back, and it'll stop. That's really one of the fun ones, especially if, let's say, you're in an area where you want to be able to capture the moment where you are. That's going to be the best one. Now, the follow mode is obviously one of my favorite as well. As I was riding on the bike, it actually was able to keep up with me. It can go up to 15 miles an hour as far as the speed. So if you're going pretty fast, it's not going to be obviously able to catch you if you're going over it. The bike that I was using in that video goes all the way up to 20 miles an hour, but I was actually running it in a way where I made sure the entire time I was able to hear the drone behind me. So as long as you're able to hear it, you know that it's behind you. And again, in well-lit situations, like as you're seeing in my video, it actually looks really, really nice. I love that. Follow is really nice. And again, keep in mind, you can advance over to the option of being able to do dolly mode. That one gets a little bit more challenging, especially if the wind is pretty up there. So I would basically say it's great for, let's say you're doing walking shots. Let's say if you want to be able to experience the environment that you're in, but still want to have that, I would say basically cameraman walking with you and just happens to be flying in a drone. The bird's eye option and some of the other options that we have in here are definitely very unique experiences. And there was a couple of times where I forgot that I was actually doing bird's eye and the camera was actually going up, and I almost thought that it was going to have to hit one of the branches on the tree that I was there. The thing about this is this system doesn't use GPS, so it utilizes the cameras that it has to be able to give you the best experience. So it knows where it starts, it knows how to come back to it. And as long as the surface that it's actually above is not too, I was going to say ambiguous, meaning it's hard to tell the difference between where it starts and ends, this actually system is going to work pretty good. And it gives you all of the different modes that you're able to not only just use with the auto mode, again, without even having to turn on your phone, and you know that it's always recording the moment you start. So the moment it lifts off, the green light turns into red. Red means recording. And the moment it starts recording, you'll see it exactly where it is. So the moment you put your hand under the actual hover, it actually stops recording and it starts basically docking mode onto your hand. And what I like about it is it actually knows where it starts, the way for it to come back to where it starts. So if, let's say, you're doing a bird's eye, it goes up and it sits there, shoots the video, and then comes back down, and you're able to pick it up. The battery life is 11 minutes. And again, this is going to be dependent on how the environment situation is. If there's a lot of wind where it has to fight to be able to stabilize itself, expect the battery life to be a little bit shorter. But if it's pretty average wind and you're just using it generally, it actually does get up to about 11 minutes worth of usage. And the fact, again, it's so small, so portable, you can take it with you and you don't have to worry about anything, and it just starts recording. Once you download the content, as I showed you guys with the app, it does remove it from the 32 gigabytes of internal storage, which is not expandable, unfortunately, onto your smartphone, and you'll be able to basically just use it there, share it, do whatever you want, edit it into, depending on your smartphone, if it has an editor in there, it's going to work really nice. And I like that it's simple. This is by far one of the easiest, simplest ways that I can promise you this. My son picked it up, started to play with it, and I'm pretty sure that if I handed this over to my mom would be able to use this. And I'm saying this because, not to say that my son is not very familiar with tech, but he has not operated a drone before. He was able to operate this in less than 30 seconds of just looking on how I was actually able to use it. And he was able to switch between the different modes, and he was playing with it, as you've seen there in the videos. It's a lot of fun. It's really, really nice. What are the use cases for this? This is great for, let's say, if you're a creator or content creator and you need to be able to have that camera guy that just happens to be really good, stabilized footage with you wherever you're going. this is going to work great. If you're going on vacations with the family, this is going to look great. You can also, again, the snapshot function is very nice where it steps away from you and it takes a few images based on what the environment is. It creates like a little bit of a reel. The ability of having to do basically the fly out and fly back in, that I would say the zoom out and zoom in view, it's gorgeous, especially if you're in an area where there's a lot of beautiful surroundings around you. So that's going to work really good. So family vacations, all of that, that's going to work great. What are some of the challenges? What are some of the things you need to be aware of? A, it doesn't have any object avoidance. So if you're in an area where there's a lot of trees, a lot of bushes around where it's going to fly, it is going to bump and you may damage the actual unit. So just be aware of that and plan in that manner. This is not going to be one of those all-in basically situations where it has all the different sensors. Again, as I mentioned, 4.4 ounces. The way they kept it this light is by providing us the most optimal automatic functionality built in. Again, low light situation, it needs to see where things are. This is relying pretty much on the cameras that it has in there. So if the environment is not well lit, that's also going to be giving you a little bit of a compromised experience. So just as long as you control those two and understand that the maximum resolution is 2.7K, and if you do want HDR, that does drop down to 1080, but also with 60 frames per second, you're not going to be disappointed. And I feel like the X1 Air is definitely built for that on-the-go, automatic, easy to set. Just push the button, put it on your hand, fly it out, do the thing, done, and go. So with that being said, I hope that you found this video helpful. I do want to say thank you very much to Hover for allowing me to check out the X1 Air and providing me with the extra battery pack, which I feel like is a great way to start. The extra battery allows you to enjoy it for up to 22 minutes, which is very nice, and also allows you to charge up both batteries at the same time so that you're able to recover pretty quickly. So with that being said, I hope that you found this video helpful. I hope that you liked the X1 Air, and of course that you maybe make a decision of picking this up as your next drone for your trips, your vacation, and when you just want to have fun. Like and subscribe as usual. Thank you very much for the support. And of course, without further ado, let's hover around.